Who's playing Twisted Sister? That's awesome.
It's a good way to wake up on a Thursday morning.
Good morning, Scott and Jay. This is Michael. I think there may be some other folks that join, but if you want to go ahead and get started just for the sake of time, I think that would be good.
Yeah, and we will. And as usual, this is going to go a lot quicker than the allotted amount of time, so we should get out of here. I'm guessing close to an hour earlier than we schedule. So welcome to the third and I believe final meeting of the Mitigation Advisory Committee for the plan update. Jade, if you can go to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the agenda. It's a quick one today. We're just going to talk a little bit about the submission timeline and what happens next. Give a quick overview of the draft plan and the key elements in it that changed, and then everybody has a draft of the plan now. So the next real important thing is to just get everybody looking at it. There are a couple of little gaps in there that are highlighted that we need your input on, but for the most part, it's a complete draft. And we want to spend just a little bit of time today talking about the mitigation strategy ranking. It's technically supposed to be done by the communities, and we sort of did a hybrid approach. So we just want to walk you through what we did on that and make sure that you concur, and then talk a little bit about the next steps, the submittal and review and adoption and all that. Next slide. So this is the timeline that we've shown at all of these meetings. As you can see, we're at the end of the process. Sometimes it seems like it went fast. Other times it seems like we've been doing this for a very long time. So I'm sure we're all happy not to have a whole bunch more of these calls to look forward to. But yeah, so this meeting is just the third meeting of this larger group. We had 2 sets of local planning team meetings, and tonight we'll have our second public meeting. That second public meeting tonight, it'll be it's going to be 100% repeat of things that you've heard quite a few times now. So encourage others to attend, but don't feel like you have to necessarily, because it's just the attendance we need more than yours is the public. But that said, you're certainly welcome. You're welcome to. Next slide. So this is the overall timeline for the plan. As you can see, if you follow the August column down, we're having MAC meeting number 3. As I mentioned, tonight will be public meeting number 2. And the draft has been distributed to a long list of stakeholders. We have received a few comments back, which is encouraging. We'll probably put out one more blast, kind of begging for comments from stakeholders, get past tonight's public meeting, and then we're going to give everybody about another week to look through the plan and get us any comments and edits that you have. And at that point, sometime towards the latter half of this month, we're going to submit it to VDEM to begin the review process. Next slide. So just an overview of the 2021 draft and some of the changes. So essentially every single section of the plan changed, from the executive summary all the way through the appendices. It was updated contextually and with also the profiles and the hazard histories and the capabilities and so forth. So the executive summary kind of highlights those updates. The planning process was updated significantly, even though we haven't had much luck with public participation or stakeholder participation. We've done a whole heck of a lot more than we've done in the past to try. So we've used a lot of social media, website tools, different posts, different types of outreach. So all of that is highlighted in the planning process section. All of these MAC committee meetings and the local planning team meetings are all highlighted in there. As I said, the community profiles are updated to include changes in development, changes in hazards, things of that nature. The risk assessment is totally updated. We'll go through some of the details in a minute. And then the capability assessment as well, with things like the anchor program and other things that may have changed since 2016. And then the mitigation strategy, as you recall, we went through the old strategy and did a disposition on those and created a new one based on the new risk assessment. And then we've beefed up the plan monitoring and maintenance section. We'll talk just a little bit about a few of these. Go to the next slide.
And I just wanted to add in that there's a detailed list of all of the changes in one of the appendices as well. So if you're extra curious and you want to see a section by section breakdown of the changes, that's there as well.
Great. So in terms of the update of the risk assessment, which is always the time consuming part, the hazard ranking was updated based on feedback from the committee. We'll show you what changed in that in a minute. New analysis was done on almost all the hazards, some a deeper dive than others. Per the state and FEMA's request, we did use HAZUS this time around for the flood risk assessment. It wasn't without its challenges, and but we were able to finally get it run, so that will at minimum make the reviewers happy, and it gives us some loss estimation numbers. We addressed dam inundation and pluvial flooding to the extent we could with the data available and the input that we had. And we added a strategy to find some money to do a deeper dive into the pluvial stuff between now and the next plan. We added a severe weather section that wasn't in the previous plans, but is in most of the plans in Virginia and North Carolina. So that's a new section. And then just basically updated all the mapping, went a little further with climate change impacts in each hazard profile. And we added consequence analysis to the human cause hazards to update them. And that was really the biggest update that's been made to the human cause hazards section since like 2006. I think it's just been kind of sitting there the same way. So that might be of interest to you to check out. Next slide. In terms of the ranking, based on your input, most of it stayed the same. Pluvial flooding was discussed and as a high hazard within the flooding hazard. And then severe weather was added, as I just said. It was previously addressed in the wind section. This time it has its own section, ranked medium high. And then the other two that changed per your input was tornado and earthquake. Each bumped up a notch. Tornado primarily to recognize these intense storms that we begin more often than in the past. Next slide. I won't go through these goals and objectives because we've done that several times now, but essentially, as you recall, we took essentially nine sets of goals with each with multiple objectives, and we've boiled it down to 3 goals, each with an objective, and they were designed to capture everything. The first one, if you go back just quickly, the first one is around new and existing built infrastructure, so protecting physical things. Next slide. The second one is around enhancing capabilities and capacities of the local government, so things like planning, regulations, mapping, technology type things. And then the third one is around education and public outreach. So it's sort of protecting what's already existing in the built environment. The second one is protecting things that might be built in the future. And the third one is kind of people and awareness. So we believe that they cover all of the types of things that the plan wants to cover. Next. So in the plan maintenance section, it was a little bit weak last time, but basically we just added, trying to make it more compliant with the FEMA review. We added implementation and evaluation criteria, annual updates, and by that I don't mean an update of the plan, obviously, just like an update of a table that we're going to talk about in a minute. And then the PDC will kind of keep a running annual progress report to the committee that can be used to make the next update of the plan easier. And at the very beginning, we had talked about usability of the plan and how it's a beast of a document and it's hard to find things and and how we can make it easier to use. So what we're doing as an appendix is to the plan maintenance section is we're creating a fairly simple Excel table that has all the strategies in there, the responsible agencies within the jurisdictions, several different things with a tracking column, and also a tab that kind of tracks some of the metrics, like how you're doing on getting them done as you update the spreadsheet, by jurisdiction, et cetera. So it'll be like a little tracking tool, so you shouldn't have to spend a lot of time looking at the big plan, but you'll just have a tool that you can actually use to track things. So that was an addition that we made. Next slide.
All right, so you saw we showed the cover of the plan a few slides ago. These are the two photos that are on there currently that I've gotten from everyone. Just wanted to quickly mention that if there were any specific photos that anyone would like to see featured on the cover, you can go ahead and just email those to me. My should have my email, but it'll also be at the end of this presentation. Yeah, just go ahead and send any in, and we can make those changes as you guys want. And then we're just going to go through a quick mitigation strategy ranking activity. So we have gone through and we had the meetings where we discussed which strategies each jurisdiction would like to include for this updated plan. And as a part of FEMA's requirements, we have to show a ranking. So what we use is a staple ranking. It just kind of goes through some categories of considerations, some questions to ask about each of the strategies and actions. And it just helps rank them. In the plan, we do like a high, medium, and low ranking. And then any strategy that ranks high, we have like a jurisdiction action plan, which just provides some more details on the action or strategy itself, breaks down, budget, who is taking the lead on it, and just some more textual or technical details as well. So we're just going to quickly go through the criteria first before we go through the little ranking table that we have. So it covers social considerations. This is how the community would react to it. Would it cause any kind of disruption? And some equity considerations. Goes through technical considerations, which includes how well it would work. Would it actually be solving a problem, or would it be addressing a symptom? And if it fits in with the overall goals that we reviewed a little bit earlier. Also considers administrative elements. This could be the capacity and capability to actually implement the action or strategy. This is coordination, staffing, any kind of administrative paperwork requirements, things like that. Political, would it be politically acceptable, and would it have the support to actually follow through with the implementation? We go through legal considerations, to be if you run into any issues in the legal side. Do you have a legal basis or precedent to conduct the activity? Will it be challenged in any way? And some liability concerns as well. Economic, so this is anything to do with the cost, if you would have to work it into a grant application, where the funding for this would be coming from, if there's some maintenance involved, if the funding would need to be long-term, if it's short-term, all of that. And then finally, environmental. So this is how it would affect the environment, if you'd have to go through any special regulatory approvals, run into any, it kind of gets into the legal side as well, if there's any kind of state or local regulatory requirements related to the environment, if it would affect any threatened or endangered species. And then each of these are just ranked with a plus or a minus. So it is, it's just very, very contextual. We're not doing anything with like numbers. We're not getting too detailed here. So it can be pretty subjective. But for the actual activity itself, what we've done for each jurisdiction, we've pulled one of the activities that we believe would be very beneficial for the jurisdiction to do. So a lot of these are physical mitigation projects. And we think that these would be best ranked as high, but you guys represent the jurisdictions, so we wanted to leave this up to you. So we've gone through and ranked all of these mitigation strategies according to the staple criteria that we just went through, putting the plus or minus in each column. Most of these, oh, go ahead.
If I could just jump in, I'll just add to we did this for 2 reasons. Number one, you have to show a process for how you rank them. But also when we had the one-on-one meetings with the communities, we all sort of, or you all sort of ranked them high, medium, low, just on gut and knowing what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. And so as Jane mentioned, all the ones that rank high have to have like their own little profile sheet. So the table has everything in it, but for all the highs, there's like a 1-pager or a half a pager that talks about it. And when we went through and pulled out all your highs and created those pages, it occurred to us that almost the majority of them were borderline not mitigation, or they were the real like preparedness related ones, or the light, really light actions like educational materials and stuff like that, which is fine. That's realistically what you're going to do, right? And those are the ones that are probably going to be the low-hanging fruit. But we're a little concerned that what the reviewers are going to say, all of your high priority stuff is only tangentially mitigation. So when we did this exercise, we tried to grab some of the kind of meatier construction related projects and see if we could get them to rank high. So that's what we're kind of showing you in these charts and asking for your input or blessing on, so that we can swap out some of those high priority sheets and have some more tangible strategies in there. Sorry, Jade.
No, that's as good contextual information for this ranking activity. So what we're going to do is I'll just quickly go through each of these strategies, briefly describe some of the considerations that we went through for the ranking. And at any time, if you guys see something on here that you disagree with, if you'd like changed, have any comments, feel free to just unmute yourself and shout it out. We want this to be, interactive if you see anything that you would like changed. So the first one is just the strategy, one of the strategies for the PDC. So this is conducting that regional stormwater study that we had put in by 2025, and identifying potential mitigation actions that could mitigate some of the things that were found in that study. And you'll see for a lot of these strategies, they run into administrative, which is the capacity to get the study or the action done. So this could be any issues with assigning staff to take the lead on it. If time is stretched thin, then that's going to be an administrative issue. And then also a lot of these will have economic considerations. So that's getting the funding for this, securing it, and choosing to fund this maybe instead of some other actions that are in there if it comes down to it. So this one we put, it was administrative and economic, is the ones that would be the main drawbacks here, but we said everything else should be okay. Of course, as we mentioned, this is up for interpretation. So if you think you would run into some like political issues getting this approved and getting this started, then that could be something that could change as well. It goes for any of these. But if that one looks okay, then we can move on to Danville. So this is coordinating with VDOT for a mitigation action on a roadway. And this just helps making sure it's clear if there's any problem areas, then you can address those, any flooding issues, things like that. So this one, very similar, we just put administrative. You'd have to be coordinating with another agency, or another department. And you'd have to have someone take the lead on that. It just might complicate things a little bit, but because you're working with another department, maybe the funding issues wouldn't be as big of an issue. So if that one looks okay, then Martinsville. So this would be conducting mitigation projects that would help protect the public or property from natural hazards. And then you might remember this one from going through the strategies. Originally, we had a big list of 10 or so mitigation projects that were more physical mitigation projects, like, you know, elevating a building, things like that. So could be any of those. It was very, very beneficial to include. That's kind of like that catch-all strategy that helps if you do want to do any of these with any homeowners, especially in the area. You can point back to it and hopefully secure some grant funding for that with FEMA.
Right. And that one came out of the discussion we had, how FEMA, if you apply for a grant, FEMA looks to see if you've identified that type of action in your plan as something you wanted to do. And they check that box on the grant application. So as Jade just said, that this was the catch-all project. So not that you necessarily might do even half of the things in the list, but it's sort of put in there just in case in the next 5 years something pops up and you decide you want to do one of them, it's covered in the plan.
Yeah, so it's very beneficial to include that one in there. But again, we just put a minus for administrative and economic, just for capacity, someone taking the lead on the project and then actually securing the funding for that, you know, having to go through the paperwork and everything. And then environmental, it would just depend on which specific project you're doing, if you had maybe run into any issues or extra hurdles there. So moving along, Pittsylvania County, we put implementing at least one flood erosion mitigation strategy for the intersection of Indian Trail, Cherokee Court, and Sam's Lines Trail. That one we put the only minus under economic, so that would be, of course, any kind of funding that you'd have to secure for that. But that was one that was specifically called out by the jurisdiction. Is something you want to do. Oh, go ahead.
Is that supposed to be under Pittsylvania County or Martinsville? Because those are 3 streets in Martinsville where we did have an issue.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that might have been.
Yeah, this is Chris in Pennsylvania County. Those didn't ring a bell. So
Okay, gotcha. Well, good. I'm glad we're doing this then. I will make a note of that.
It might have been a cut and paste area since.
Yeah. All right, let me make note of that really quick. Okay, well, this would be a good one. So we can replace that in this activity. Let me go back to, so the one that was for, oh, that's what it was. I switched them at the last minute and I didn't update the jurisdictions. So for Martinsville, we put the conducting mitigation projects that would help protect against any of the natural hazards. That's a strategy that all the jurisdictions had said that they wanted to include. So that's across the board. You know, we'd want to rank that high for as many jurisdictions as possible. But that's one that we can rank high for Pittsylvania County, if that sounds okay. All right, confusion there. Okay, so this one would be then for Martinsville. So we put, I think the same considerations would apply. I think the biggest issue would be, again, securing funding for that, as long as you think that it would, the administrative side wouldn't be too much of an issue. We assumed something like the public would want this to be done. It would help them there. So we didn't think that would be an issue there. And then moving on to HURT. So that we put enforce and enhance zoning and building codes to prevent and control construction within the floodplain. So this one, we put, you might have an issue with public, you know, people are really set on building somewhere. They might not appreciate being told that they cannot, even if it's for the better for them and the community. So you might run into some issues there. And then, of course, some legal issues as well.
Political might be a negative on that one too.
Yeah, potentially political as well. So if that one is still okay with being ranked high, then we can do that. We thought it would be very beneficial. FEMA definitely likes to see, you know, building and any kind of zoning in the floodplain being up to par as best as possible. So we think it would be beneficial for it to be ranked high. No objections there. Then we can move on to Gretna. So we said identify and protect at least one critical aquifer recharge zone in a high risk area per year. It was only one per year, but we did put a minus in administrative, just in case that could be an issue that you guys are worried about. But of course, we could always change this. And I just want to note that these, like the plus and minus, this portion isn't in the plan itself. This is just kind of the background activity to get the final rankings in the plan. It just shows high, medium, and low. But this is just to get those rankings. Moving on to Chatham. So we
Hey, excuse me, can I jump in? This is Chris in Pennsylvania County.
Of course.
Let's go back to Hurt just for a second.
Mhm.
I don't know if they've got anybody on the call or not. I don't see anybody listed, but Hurt. I'm not sure that how I'd have to do some more checking to see if that's doable with them to rank it high. They only have 4 town employees. Maybe I think it's only 4, and I think only 1 or 2 it even works in the public works. I think their zoning. I don't think they have separate zoning. I think that actually comes under Pennsylvania County as well. So I just administratively, I don't know if that'd be a plus or a minus there. And economically, I don't know if they could do it either.
So this is
So
Emily from Pennsylvania County. They do have their own zoning.
Okay.
Their building code, though, the county, that falls under Pennsylvania County. So they have to follow all building codes out of the uniform statewide building code that the county enforces. But they do have their own zoning. I mean, they could strengthen that a little bit, but like to follow up what Chris says, I mean, they have a hard time enforcing what they've already got because they have so little staff. So
Yeah, I'm just being realistic with what they might be able to accomplish. That's all.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what we're going through this activity.
Yeah, that is the reason.
Yeah, okay. So I made note of all that. So we can definitely, I think that one currently we put is a medium, if I'm remembering correctly, to be safe. We were hoping we could advance it to a high, but if it doesn't seem realistic, then of course we can still leave it as a medium. They have other projects that are ranked high still. So that.
This is Emily. What was their reasoning for this? And I guess I don't fully understand what they need to enhance. I mean, they have zoning, but I mean, with building codes and the county's floodplain ordinance, I mean, that's going to cover them as well. So I don't know what, I guess I'm just confused on what they're looking to enhance, like what their reasoning for enhancing this was. Do you know?
I can't, because I'm sharing the PowerPoint. I can't pull up the notes. Scott, do you happen to remember?
I don't, but my suspicion, Emily, is that it was probably carried over from an older plan and they just figured why not leave it in there. That would be my guess if I had to.
Okay. I know that they've got issues with like solid waste and inoperable vehicles. So I didn't know if they, and the county cannot enforce, since that falls under zoning, we can't help them get all that cleaned up. And they've got issues with a lot of that ending up in floodplains. So I didn't know, if they were looking for a way to kind of help mitigate those issues. But as far as building, and I mean, we're going to enforce that and not allow for things to be built in the floodplain unless it, meets standards set forth in the building code anyways.
Gotcha. Okay. Yes, I made note of all that. So we can follow up with them and see if it is something that they want to leave in, or if they want to clarify. We can definitely take out the building codes and leave in zoning if that's something they want to do, or we can, modify it however they see fit. So we can follow up with them thank you for that information. Okay, think so. If no one had any comments on Gretna, we went through that one. Then we can keep going on to Chatham. So we said upgrade water systems to bring additional water sources online to link community systems, provide redundancy, and provide additional areas with non-well water. And we put administrative and environmental as some considerations there. And everything else we thought would not be too much of an issue based on our conversations with the jurisdiction in the past. So seeing no comments there, we can move ahead. So we have Henry County implement a channel maintenance program consisting of routine inspections and debris and sediment removal. And we put by 2023 for that one. And we said include detection and prevention of discharges into stormwater and sewer systems from some different discharge areas, and then identify funding as well. And we said this one would likely be positively received throughout all of these consideration categories. Does anyone from the jurisdiction have any comments with this, or is this one okay to be ranked high? Okay. So moving on to Ridgeway.
Whoop.
Oh, sorry, got back.
Was there a comment, or was that just background?
I think it's just.
Yeah, this is Lee Clark from Henry County. I was just letting you know that that still should remain ranked high.
Okay, great. All right, so moving on to. Oh, I'm still getting feedback. Can everyone hear me okay? Oh, there we go. All right, so Ridgeway, we said develop a plan for Norfolk Southern Bridge Railroad to routinely monitor underlying creek for debris and sediment removal to reduce risk for overflows. We said there might be some administrative concerns with that one and some technical concerns as well. But other than that, we said it might be okay.
This is BT from Boone's Mill, and I know I don't have any say in Ridgeway. I was just looking at the terminology there. You might want to say Norfolk Southern Railroad Bridge instead of Norfolk Southern Bridge Railroad.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I shouldn't be opining because we're the ones that did this, but I would give it a positive for technical and potentially a negative for legal, just because you have to deal with the railroad.
Okay.
Which will be a wash in the ranking anyways, but just my 2 cents.
Yeah. Noted all of that. Thank you. Okay. So now we have Patrick County. We said continue providing critical public facilities with the necessary hookups and wiring and connections for backup generators, communications, and vehicles to continue functionality after a disaster, and then apply for funding for some of those critical facilities. And we put a minus on technical, only because that's one that if it doesn't exactly line up with the goals that we had set earlier, or if there's some other strategies that are also important. Honestly, Patrick County had a lot of pretty good strategies. So there was some other like more physical mitigation strategies that were already ranked high. This was one that was medium that we thought might also be useful, that there seemed to be a need for. So we put this one in here. Still very good strategy. We didn't see any issues throughout any of the other ones. We thought it would be pretty straightforward to get funding for this, whether through a grant or other means. So we think this one would be good as ranked high, if that sounds okay. And seeing no comments, we can move on to Stewart. So we said expand broadband capabilities to improve emergency communications to rural areas and increase internet access. So with talking with them, this seemed like it was an issue that they really wanted to push forward. Said there might be some issues with finding the funding for that, but we thought everyone would be all for it, and it would help a lot of people, and they view it as a positive thing. So wanted to rank this one as high as well. Thought it would be beneficial. Okay, and I think this is starting to wrap them up, but we have Franklin County. So we said continue increasing drainage or absorption capacities of the biggest stormwater flooding problem areas. And then it lists some ways to do that. And we put economic and environmental. These can be kind of like shovel in the ground activities, so you can run into issues there. And then of course with funding, but otherwise shouldn't be too many issues. And oh, was there a comment? Okay. So then we have Boone's Mill. So this is submitting a FEMA grant or HMA grant application to address the flooding from high intensity rainfall events in downtown Boone's Mill. We put administrative, someone would have to champion that and push that forward and get through the paperwork involved with submitting a sub-application for those grants. And that's why it also has the minus under economic as well. But other than that, we thought it would be well received.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
one other thing.
in Boone's Mill, I think that one's right on the mark.
Okay.
Also worth noting too, and we didn't talk about it a lot through the process because it's brand new, but the new Virginia, I'm going to forget the acronym now, but the Community Flood Prevention Fund grant program that's now available, and it's going to, looks like, continue to be available once or twice a year, can be used in most cases to match FEMA funds. So a lot of those projects that you didn't go after before because you didn't have the 25% match, there's ways to quilt that together now and use the state fund for the match. So that should be a big positive. And we added that as a funding source to the mitigation strategy table since the last time we all spoke.
Yeah, I think in the 2016 plan, that was actually one of the additions that we made. There wasn't a direct table that listed out the funding strategies and opportunities. So we did add that in, that goes through the different programs and just where it would be applicable, if it can be used for a match, things like that. So we did include some more information on the Virginia Community Flood Program. Also forget the acronym, but we have more information on that in the plan this time around as well. And in the jurisdiction action plans for all of the strategies that are ranked high, we also list out how these strategies could be funded. So, if it's applicable for an FMA or HMGP or BRIC grant, that's in there. For a Virginia grant, that's in there. So hopefully that'll be helpful as well. And then we have Rocky Mount. So we said complete a flood mitigation action for Rocky Mount. So this one left it broad, so it can be applicable to any action that you see fit. It's kind of throws back to the general mitigation action that we had early on that, lists 12 or so different projects that would be eligible. This one covers all of those as well. It's just specifically calling out Rocky Mount on this one. And again, we just said administrative and economic concerns. All right, so that got through the activity. Thank you very much for the feedback we got on that. We will make the changes and reach out, especially to HURT, as we had talked about before. But other than that, we will rank those ones as high and make sure they have their jurisdiction action plan associated with them to help with implementation down the road. But now we are.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, go ahead.
It was Chris in Pennsylvania County again. Are you going to go back and add one for us? Because remember you had one for, it said us, but I believe it's from either Martinsville or Henry County.
Yes, so that one, I had just, when I went back and I saw this was Martinsville, I think I just forgot to switch the names. Because when I was moving some strategies around, so this one, that was conduct mitigation projects that mitigate against natural hazards. And that one, in the actual plan, there wasn't enough space to include it here, but it lists like 12 or so mitigation projects. That one is for all the counties. We were just calling out for one of them here, but this one is one that we would like to rank high, the one at the bottom for Pittsylvania County, if that sounds okay. But also, and we wanted to call out that if there are any other physical mitigation projects that Pittsylvania County or any of the other jurisdictions really wants to do or to try to do, and you would want that to be ranked high, just to go ahead and let us know, because we definitely want to include that, include the action plan for it. So if this one sounds okay, this one at the bottom, this would be for Pennsylvania County to rank high, then we can definitely do that. But if you have any other, physical mitigation projects specifically, FEMA would love to see those as ranked high.
Yeah, and I would just add, like in the next week or so, when we hope you'll review the plan, I would, if you don't have time to go through the whole long plan, I would spend my energy, if I were you, on the mitigation strategy section, because that's going to be what you're using in the next 5 years, and just, you spend your energy on that. And if there's anything in there that we missed in those local planning team calls, by all means, there's time to add it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so just feel free to follow up with us in the next week or so, and we can go ahead and make any changes that you guys see fit. If anyone has had a chance to review the plan that's posted online and that was sent out, and you have any kind of feedback, comments, questions, edits, anything like that, we can go ahead and get those noted and addressed now. So if anyone has anything, go ahead and shout it out. And there were a couple parts of the plan that I wanted to quickly go through. There were some couple remaining things, I think like 3 or 4, that we were unsure if we had the most up-to-date information. So we can go through that throughout this process. If anyone sees anything they have comments on, if you think of anything, any edits you'd like made, definitely let us know. So I'm going to exit out of this and just share the plan quickly. Let's see. Okay. Hopefully that's sharing okay. So I just had a couple things that were highlighted in here that wanted to go through. So this one, it was just a holdover from the 2016 plan. So I guess this would be more for Michael, if you're still on. It says, in addition, the Planning District Commission has distributed brochures about the plan throughout the planning area and displayed information about the plan in the PDC office. So this would be referring to the 2016 plan. Do you know if that was done for the 2016 plan?
Yeah, Jade, I believe that was done,
Okay.
the brochures and then having it displayed.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let's see some of the things that are highlighted in blue. We just have to go back because it has to do with like stakeholder involvement, which we're still working on right now, getting the remainder of the feedback in. So that'll be updated later on. This one, we just wanted to confirm. So we got information in one of the local planning team meetings that the county developed a business center off of US Route 58. Approximately 5 miles east of the Henry County line. And then this highlighted portion was from the 2016 plan. I wanted to ask, is that this what it's talking about here? A mega park off of Berry Hill Road. Is that the same as this Roseville Business Center, or is that different? Would have been something you would have announced plans for back in 2008.
I'm thinking it's this.
No. It's not the same.
Well, one of them's 80 acres and the other is 3,500 acres.
Yeah, we weren't sure if like plans had changed since this was a holdover from a while ago. We didn't know if it ended up just being, you know, like an 80-acre business center.
No.
Or if that's the Brossville industrial park. There's a little industrial park here in Brossville.
Yep, that's right.
It's all 58. I bet you
They're
what
two
that.
separate things, but they're both
Yeah.
there.
So was that
Roswell.
was that highlighted one built, I'm assuming?
Yes,
Mhm.
Okay.
they're
Alright.
building it now.
Okay.
What was the name for that one again?
Berry Hill Mega Site.
Mhm.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you very much. Oops, let's see. Okay. So this one, it was just a little table that goes over some plans for the jurisdictions and the dates for these. So we had some of these, others were online that we were able to find, but we wanted to confirm the dates because there was some confusion around there. And this is definitely something we can follow up with in an email. I just wanted to point it out if you don't have it off the top of your head. But anything in yellow, we were unsure of. I think one of these, the most current version we had was it's like 1997 or something around there. So we weren't sure if that was the most up to date. But these are the plans. So if anyone sees any issue or anything, any changes with these dates that they can correct right now, feel free to let us know.
Hey, Jay, this is Billy Ferguson from Franklin County. I noticed on the emergency operations plan, you got a star there for us. That was actually last approved by the board in 2018, and it'll be due again in 2022. So that's when that was.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Anybody know for Martinsville or Pennsylvania County?
Hey, this is John from Martinsville. Our EOP was updated and approved in 2018.
And Pennsylvania County was approved in 2019.
Okay.
Right. We're on a roll. Any idea about the comprehensive plans for Patrick County or Henry County? Or the others?
Hello, this is Mark McCaskill in Martinsville. So our comprehensive plan just got amended with a land use and transportation chapter a couple of weeks ago, so 2021, and I think that qualifies for the state code's 5-year review of comprehensive plans.
Okay, great.
And Pennsylvania County just reviewed and readopted our plan in 2020, December of 2020.
Okay.
And Patrick County's updating theirs currently. It should be finalized this year, 2021.
Perfect.
Okay, and does anyone know for Henry County by chance? Yeah, I think it was Henry County. The one that was available online was from quite a while ago. So that's why we have this star here right now, but we can follow up with that through email. But thank you so much for giving the feedback for that. It clears up a lot. And then the other portion of this, so we list out some other plans other than the comprehensive and EOPs that have incorporated the hazard mitigation plan elements in the past. We have a Franklin County Public Safety Strategic Plan. 2005 was the latest year we had on this. If anyone knows.
Jay, we're working on updating that. We realized that that's been quite a while, but we're having a work session in September to kind of work through that. And also we're looking at using a third-party vendor. We're working on RFPs now to assist with that.
Okay, great. All right. And then if anyone else has any other plans that have incorporated some hazard mitigation elements from the 2016 plan or earlier, then we can also include those as well. Okay. If anyone thinks of anything, feel free to shoot me an email. That would be great. This has cleared up a lot, so thank you. Okay. Those were all of the elements that we wanted to check over, I believe. There might have been one to do with the strategy. Let me see. Oops. Okay, nope, looks like we got it all. All right, thank you very much for that. If anyone else, again, has any comments, questions, concerns with the plan, we can go ahead and address those now. If not, we can head back to the presentation. I think we just have one more slide left. All right. Scott, did you want to go through the next steps?
Sure. All right, so most of you have been through this before, so you pretty much know what the next steps are, but you should have an electronic copy that Michael provided. If you don't, or you misplaced it, it's at this link on the PDC's website, or just reach out to us. We can provide another version of it. So please send any feedback that you have by the 11th, which is, I think, it's about a week from today. And we will incorporate that. We have sent the plan out to a list of stakeholders, including neighboring jurisdictions in both Virginia and North Carolina, and several others is included in the plan. If you think that there's anybody else that would have any interest in any piece of the plan, please distribute it to them too, with the same short turnaround deadline. The goal is to get all the comments back next week, incorporate them, and produce a final review draft. And that'll be submitted to Virginia DEM this month. 17th is the target, so give or take a couple days. And it will go to them, and then beyond that is sort of out of our control. We'll commit to turning around the comments quickly when we get them, but we're hopeful that they'll turn it around fairly quickly, and we incorporate their comments, and then it gets sent on to FEMA to review their comments. When we submit it, I think we will emphasize that these brick grant opportunities are coming up in the November-December time frame. So if anybody's going to apply for brick grants, it would be nice to say that when we're submitting the plan, to put a little urgency under the reviewers, because you have to have an approved plan. You can apply for brick, and if your plan is, in review with FEMA, they're not going to reject it because you don't have an approved plan. But usually if there's a grant application pending, it speeds them up a little bit. So the goal is, we will submit it this month, and we're hoping that it gets shepherded through the review process fairly easily. And then we'll have to talk about the adoption process. What FEMA does, for those of you who don't recall, is when they'll send their edits to us if they have any. We'll go back and forth and address them all until they're satisfied, and then they'll issue what they call an APA letter, approved pending adoption. And then you have to go through and adopt the plan, provide adoption proof, and then they send a final approval letter to each jurisdiction. So we don't have to think about that for another couple of months probably, but that's the next time we all talk will probably be about the adoption process. If for some reason they have a lot of comments or they want to change something substantially, which typically doesn't happen, but it could. It all depends on the reviewer. If it's something that changes, anything substantially, we may need another quick call just to talk about it, but that's very unlikely to happen. So this is probably our last large group call before we talk about adoption. Any questions about the process?
Scott, will this presentation you just went through, will it be posted somewhere that we can get to later with questions?
Yes, I believe we've been posting them on the PDC website, and we'll post this one up too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's all we had for you today. Basically, just a quick overview, and please try to take a look at the plan. Make sure we didn't mess anything up too bad. Let us know if we did, and we'll fix it. Otherwise, we'll be submitting it shortly. Thanks everybody for the time. Appreciate it. You know how to reach us if you want to chat about anything.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for your hard work on this.
Thank you. Bye.